Dr. Paz, thank you so much for talking to me today. Let's start at the beginning. And how did you learn that the president was going to be coming to the James? And what was your reaction when you found out and those beginning talks were happening?
Yeah, so we heard a few days ago that we learned from the White House there was an interest in having the President of the United States come to Ohio State Wexner Medical Center, and in particular our James Cancer Hospital, to celebrate the 11th anniversary of the passing of the Affordable Care Act.
And when he got there, he talked a lot about, what the Affordable Care Act means for Ohio State and the James. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit about what it does mean to you guys and what it was
Sure.
able to facilitate?
Oh, absolutely. And let me just say first and foremost, the recognition and that we received by having the President of the United States travel to Ohio and come to Columbus to have this announcement at the Wexner Medical Center was just incredible. And I think for our workforce, we have about 30,000 individuals, doctors, nurses, other clinicians, as well as a huge number of support staff that have been so actively involved 24/7, in particular during this COVID pandemic. And to receive this recognition from the President of the United States couldn't have come at a more important time for them, and just what it meant to all of us. So we were enormously grateful for that. But as you asked, the Affordable Care Act has had an important impact in ensuring that those that had been uninsured would have coverage to give them opportunities to receive access to health care here in the state of Ohio, reducing the number of uninsured across the state by about half, roughly, and to afford them opportunities for improved health and well-being and improved health outcomes because they can have better access to health care. And that's enormously important. And as a hospital here in Ohio that provides a significant amount of care for a very broad population, including many who fall through the social safety net and need these types of additional resources, we couldn't be more proud to have been providing that care since the passage of the Affordable Care Act 11 years ago.
Um, was kind of inspired to do this story because I saw several comments. Of course, we live streamed the president's entire visit. Several comments saying, "Hey, I may not have voted for the guy, but it's cool that he's at the James. The James saved my life or my family's friend's life, or so many different stories of people across the state come to the James for their cancer treatments." Uh, what do you have to say about that? That the president and his team chose to put Ohio State and the James in this big, huge spotlight, and even continuing into today, he's continuing to post on social media about what he saw there.
Yeah, so that's the second part of the visit. And the funding 11 years ago, which we all know as the Affordable Care Act legislation, at that time, there was also a $100 million grant that we received at the James for the construction of our radiation oncology facility, our linear accelerator facility on the second floor of the James. That grant funding at the time the ACA was passed was instrumental in allowing us to move forward with that construction. And what did that do? Well, that built a state-of-the-art facility here in Ohio, here in Columbus, that married up incredible research and clinical research programs that we have at The Ohio State University across the Wexner Medical Center with the opportunity to offer cutting-edge care, state-of-the-art care in the James Cancer Hospital. And that made sure that patients from across the region who had cancer and who could benefit from radiation therapy could come to the James and truly get the most cutting edge care possible. Since that facility is open, the research continues to expand and grow. The innovation is absolutely incredible. And that same team now is in the process of building the only proton beam accelerator on our West Campus in the entire region. And that will be one more advantage that we can offer patients who have cancer that would benefit from radiation therapy. And when you think about how how much of a proponent President Biden has been on the war against cancer, and how he was such a spokesperson when he was vice president, and the leadership he provided at that time for the cancer moonshot, as it was called, and the idea that we could actually eradicate cancer as we know it today by pursuing research and technology and development and allowing clinical centers like the James to offer state-of-the-art therapies to patients. For me, to see him arrive at the James to give his remarks and to have the opportunity for him to tour that facility, which goes back now 11 years to this very important legislation and the visionary leadership at the time, I think is an incredible opportunity for us and an enormous point of pride. And, I would say there were probably a number of places in the country that could have been selected. For us, it was so affirming to have the President of the United States select the Ohio State Wexner Medical Center and the James as the place to come. It really resonates with a number of the breakthroughs that have occurred here at the Wexner Medical Center during this pandemic. One of the first hospitals in the nation on the first day that vaccines were being administered to vaccinate with the Pfizer vaccine. The very first hospital in America to vaccinate with the J&J vaccine. The fact that we've done over 100,000 vaccines to date here in the greater Columbus community in central Ohio. We've done over 500,000 COVID tests since the beginning of the pandemic, not to mention the enormous number of patients that we've cared for, including in the hospitals of the Wexner Medical Center, in our ICUs, to be able to offer these patients the cutting edge care that they so much want, deserve, and we believe we can offer them. And last but not least, keeping the place open as soon as we could, continue to resume elective care, elective surgeries and care for our patients, being able to have them come back to the Wexner Medical Center, to our outpatient facilities, but all during that time offering care over telehealth, which we think is extraordinarily important. And we went from offering 50 telehealth visits before the pandemic to 2,800 telehealth visits a day now, so that patients could continue to interface with their doctors and other members of the healthcare team. We think that's so incredibly important.
Thinking long term, how does this, because we all know that name recognition is, of course, very large in the hospital industry, having the James and Ohio State, be put on this national spotlight. It was all over nightly news last night and social media today, of course, as far as recruiting doctors and researchers and fundraising. What does that kind of national recognition mean to you guys?
Yeah, without a doubt, the name recognition, by the way, it's been a pretty well-regarded name
Yes.
for quite some time, but this does, I'm sure, move it up to a whole new level. And I think it just continues to build on the enormous national and even global attention we received when we first administered the Pfizer vaccine, and then again when we administered the J&J vaccine. And it continues to build on that theme over the past year. And I'm enormously proud as a Buckeye for the Ohio State University, but also for the state of Ohio. To be the state to get this kind of recognition should make all of us across the entire state be enormously proud. And you're right, it's just one more thing that when we're recruiting those cutting edge faculty and those cutting edge researchers, the doctors, the nurses, and the other members of the healthcare team from literally across the country and around the world, it does make that name all that more familiar. And we're thrilled about that. And certainly, we know our patients have a lot of different choices, and we want them to know that, this is a place where they're going to get extraordinary care, but most importantly, have the kind of patient experience that we believe they deserve. And sure, like any university, like any health center, hospital, academic health center, philanthropy and fundraising is exceptionally important. We're in the process right now of, we've launched 5 major construction hospitals, a $2 billion hospital tower with 840 beds in it, 3 major outpatient clinics in the outer belt of Columbus, one in New Albany, one in Dublin, and one on our West Campus right by Upper Arlington. We are building an interprofessional health science education building. We have the largest virtual health science campus in the nation at Ohio State. with 10,000 students. We want to make sure that they have state-of-the-art facilities to have interprofessional education, and we are building a state-of-the-art research building, an interdisciplinary research building on the West Campus, which is home to the James Cancer Center's immuno-oncology institute, which is funded by Pelotonia, because immuno-oncology is one of these breakthrough areas like radiation oncology. Immunotherapy can allow us to care for cancer patients using cutting-edge drug therapies to help treat and even cure cancers. We think that's incredibly important research.
One last question for you. I know you're on a tight timeline here. After this very hard year on all of the staff at Ohio State at the hospital there, what kind of morale boost did it give your staff to have to be honored by visited by the president yesterday?
Oh, I think it was extraordinary. It was extraordinary for them just on the basis of the emails that I have received and the comments I've heard from our 30,000 employees, clinical employees, and our support teams. It's been extraordinary. It's been an affirmation for them. They know that the President of the United States could have gone to a lot of parts of the country for a visit like this, and chose to come here means an awful lot to them. A lot of work went on here the past week to prepare for this visit. As you might imagine, it took a lot of preparation, people working 24/7 to make sure that we were prepared to create the kind of environment that Ohio would want us to put forward, and at the same time, an environment that was incredibly safe for the president and his team. And we know that the president's team, went through enormous layers of complexity to get the president of the United States here. And just, our enormous thanks to him. He could have made this speech in Washington, D.C. at the White House, and he chose to make this trip all the way out here for this purpose only. That speaks volumes about what this all means. So we're very, very grateful.